All right, folks, this is Sherman Ray. This is the Livin in Vegas podcast. Let's get this show on the road. Hey, good morning, everybody. Sherman Ray. This is the Livin in Vegas podcast. Having a problem with my coffee this morning. I want to welcome you all to the show this morning on a. It's almost hump day. So it is. Actually, it is hump day. Yeah, so it's hump day here in Las Vegas and probably where you live at also, unless you live in like Australia or something like that. So I want to welcome you all to the show. Welcome all of our friends and who are on Facebook. Who are just, you're just chiming in right now. I'm going to go ahead and reset everything over there so we can actually see each other. And if you're watching us on YouTube or Twitter or, any of the other places that the show is on, thank you all for being a part of the show this morning. I'm Sherman Ray. I'm the publisher of Livin in Vegas magazine. And we come to you each and every day to talk to you about the people, the places, the trends, the events that shape the city of Las Vegas. We're the Livin in Vegas podcast. So I had some interesting things to talk about today. Many of you know that yesterday was election day here in Las Vegas and in the state of Nevada. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about some birthdays, some celebrations, that are happening. We're also going to talk about this coffee that I'm drinking this morning. It's just, I don't know, sometimes many of you know I was a coffee roaster at one time, and I still roast, but so I'm very particular about my coffee. I mean, I know coffee. I was a roaster, so when things are just not right, it's on the tongue, I get it. So the wife and I have been trying some new stuff because I've got to get off of the sugar, and so that's a tough one. Oh, there's something on my shirt too. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know what it is on my shirt, but I just noticed that. Some of you, this might be the first time you're checking us out. I'm Sherman Ray. I'm the publisher of Livin in Vegas magazine. It is on the shelves right now. You can actually go to our website at livininvegas.com and you can check out our magazine. This is the current issue. This was the April edition, and we're going to be working on the new July edition right now. If you were with us yesterday, you actually got to see an interview with the guy who's going to be on the front cover of our July issue. And that's Nathan Hall. He's the owner of Bad Beat Brewing Company, which is really cool. Great story, I'll tell you. You actually got to hear part of his story from the horse's mouth if you watched the first half of the show yesterday. So that was on. We also publish another magazine. It's called Livin Weekly Magazine. This is the cover for Livin Weekly magazine, and this was it's a special edition, and it's called The Murals of Downtown Las Vegas. And let's move that around, Sherman. It's really not technically correct there. It's just not. It's not in the right place. Is what I'm looking at, folks. So Livin Weekly magazine. There we go. It's a little bit better. Livin Weekly magazine. We did a special edition of it to highlight some of the murals in the downtown Las Vegas area. It's so cool. And if you've been with us on our Facebook pages, let's say you're on any one of our Facebook pages, you've already seen some of these because we've been posting a few of the pictures, not a lot of them, but a few of the pictures, because we really want you to go to our website. We want you to go to the website and check out the Livin Weekly magazine to check out all of the really cool. One of the best murals that you'll see in Las Vegas is actually right on the cover. This is just phenomenal, and that particular one really doesn't do it justice. You'll actually have to go to the website. It's literally 40 feet long. It's a 40-foot long mural that's on the page, so you just have to check it out. Anyways, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Really do. A lot of really cool stuff about the election that happened yesterday. I want to talk a little bit about that. Let's do some pay some bills here really quick, folks, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the election from yesterday. Hi, everybody. It's Sherman Ray for Livin in Vegas podcast. Are you a business owner that's looking to get the word out about his product, service, or even just a great message out there, well, we'd like to give you that opportunity by being a guest on Livin in Vegas podcast. It's super simple. All you've got to do is contact us at advertising@livininvegas.com. That's advertising@livininvegas.com, and we'll schedule you for an interview on Livin in Vegas podcast. I'm Sherman Ray for Livin in Vegas podcast, where we talk about the people, the places, the trends, and the events that shape the city of Las Vegas. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. And Vegas Livin Expos, folks, is coming to Las Vegas. We're really excited about it. Contact us if you'd like more information on Vegas Livin Expos. And just contact us at vegaslivinexpos@gmail.com. We're looking for vendors, people who are into the home renovation, painting, anything having to do with the home. Contact us at Vegas Livin Expos for information on our upcoming expo. Very cool. So yesterday, folks, we had an election here in Las Vegas. And many of you know that they've been leading up to this for months, literally months. And so yesterday, early voting happened, started May 28th. It ended over the weekend, and then the primary started yesterday, the regular primary day. And up until that point, really wasn't a high voter turnout in the state. As a matter of fact, it was actually fairly low, and a lot of people chose to mail in their ballots, that kind of stuff. Well, it wasn't much better during Election Day. As a matter of fact, in all, about 18% of the voter electorate actually turned out to vote. 18%. Can you believe that? Got to get that number up here, folks. It's just amazing. Especially with the climate that we're in right now, as far as, leadership and stuff like that. Who big names came up and won yesterday? You see Adam Laxalt, actually, who was our former Attorney General, and ran for governor in a failed bid against Steve Sisolak, actually defeated Joey Gilbert and a slew of... Adam Laxalt beat Sam Brown. So Sam Brown and a slew of other Republican hopefuls for the nod for the Republican side for the Senate race. And so he's going to actually be going up against Catherine Cortez Masto. Yeah. So Catherine Cortez Masto is a sitting senator here in the state of Nevada. And she is, they're saying that if there's any seat that is vulnerable for the midterms, it is probably this race right here. And they've been, Donald Trump backed Adam Laxalt and brought in the heavy guns to get him through the primaries, because Sam Brown gave everybody a run for the money. Sam Brown's former military guy, and horrifically damaged in when he was on deployment, and he created this, just a movement of people who just love Sam Brown, and he gave Adam everything he could take to win the nomination, but Adam prevailed, and now he's going on to the general election against Catherine Cortez Masto. So this will be very, very interesting. Many of you know, and we don't talk about politics here very often, other than, hey, guess what, who's running, that kind of stuff. But I tend to be fairly, I'm really actually very politically motivated. And last night, one of my good friends, we went over to her house to watch the election results. And that was Victoria Seaman. She is the sitting current Ward 2 city councilman up in the Summerlin area. So if you're up in that Summerlin area, she is in that area, and we went over to her house. And it was a great gathering of people. Really cool. I met some really cool folks that I'd probably not met before, and a lot of faces I knew, a lot of people that I've known over the years. uh, to now now Victoria Seaman was not in danger at all. I mean, she's never been in danger. Of all of the candidates that I know of, and I follow this stuff pretty well. In addition to all the other things that I follow here in Las Vegas, Victoria Seaman is probably the most active candidate you're probably going to see. If you don't know who your city councilman is, it's because they have not been very active. And many people don't know who their city councilman is. I ran for city council, Ward 1, and so I know who my city councilman is. But most people have no idea who they are. And it's because they're not very active. And that is not Victoria Seaman. Even during her watch party last night, and she had her staff there. So it's not as though she didn't have people there to do this, that, or the other thing. But they kind of stood on the side as she was like a bee, just kind of, doing her stuff, which was it was great to see. It really is just great to see her because she's such a joy. She really is. Lovely home, a lovely husband. When I first met Victoria Seaman, I was running for office, and she had just was in a special election for Ward 2. So she was just getting ready to. She wanted to run for it because it was a special election to replace the guy who had just been kicked out of, or he actually stepped down from office in Ward 2. So that's when I first met her, and we were at a forum. I think it was a senior citizen thing over near university. And so we were talking to people, and her and I began a friendship then. When she finally did win the city council race, she was the city councilman over the area where my restaurant was at. And so, of course, her and her husband would stop by. They would have campaign things there at my shop. Anything she wanted, I was there to do. And I have Victoria is it's not a burden, because Victoria is a very, very sweet lady. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, she's a hard driver. There's no doubt about it. But she's a very sweet lady, and it's very easy to do things for her. And she is the kind of person that will bend over backwards to do it for you. As a matter of fact, I'll tell this real quick story. I was speaking with Victoria Seaman's husband last night, and he told me a story about a Saturday that they were sitting at home. And this was just maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. And they're sitting at home, on a Saturday evening, relaxing. Their lovely home, like I said, really just a beautiful place they've got over off of Town Center. And he said that she got a phone call from a lady who was on her way back home. She was leaving Las Vegas to go back to New York or wherever she was going to. And how somebody had picked up her dog. She had a dog. She had no money. And they were going to euthanize the dog because they could not. The dog had been there for a long time. They couldn't find out who this dog was. And somebody called Victoria up to say, hey, Victoria, this lady lives in your district. Can you help her out? And this is what her husband said. Her husband said that Victoria said, we're getting up. Let's go. We got things to do. And her husband goes, what? What do you mean? Where we're going? We're watching the game here. I'm having hot dogs. What are we doing? Who are you? And Victoria got up out of her chair, went over to where the lady was at, helped her get her dog back, because she called the animal shelter and said, do not euthanize this dog. This is this lady's dog, and you need to stop right now and give this lady back her dog. That's Victoria Seaman. And she would, how many of your city council people would actually do that? Now, I would do that. That's because that's the way my DNA is. But most city council people would go, no, sorry. I'm watching, the Untouchables or whatever on TV or whatever, or make an excuse. Victoria is not that way. As a matter of fact, I called her up, and we'll end on this, folks, because I know I can go on so much about Victoria Seaman. A couple of days ago, I was out taking shots, of a story we're going to be working on. And so I have Victoria's phone number. She's on speed dial on my phone, and has been for years now. And I sent a note to her and said, now she's running for office, right? She's running for office. She's got things to do, plus her regular job. Okay. And I said, Victoria, because I was out on a location and I couldn't get into the location, or I knew there was a problem with it. And I said, Victoria, why is it this thing? She sends me back a note and says, I will figure it out for you, Sherm. I will make sure that we get the answer for you on that particular problem. Oh, and by the way, do you want to come over to my house to to watch the election? Here's your private. And there wasn't like there was a bunch of people at the house. No, there wasn't. It wasn't like there was throngs of people there. Some of her closest friends, her staff from her office, my wife and I. It was very nice, very nice. That's the Victoria Seaman. That she could. Anyways, I love her. We love her. We want to continue to support her. She might become the next senator. She might become the next mayor. President Victoria Seaman. You heard it here first, folks. Okay? You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first. So what time is it, folks? Because I'll talk all day long. You know how I am. Let's continue on with the election because that's really the biggest story of the year right now in Las Vegas. We know for sure there are a couple of people who won. We know for sure because for some reason last night people over at Centennial, northern part of Las Vegas, could not get all of their people in before the deadline. So there were a ton of people who were voting yesterday at that particular voting precinct. And so we were waiting for the election results to come in. Got a phone call from an insider who said, look, don't even worry about it. You're not going to get any results because they've got all these people over at Centennial. So you're not going to start getting any. Here by our state laws, you cannot start counting until everybody is in. So unless until that last person gets there, cast their vote, you cannot start releasing any of that data. You can't start counting. So when I left Victoria Seaman's house, which was closer to 9 o'clock last night, they had not even started bringing in any of the election results. This morning, as of this morning, I believe there's only about 13 precincts that actually have even reported that there are 13% of the precincts have been reporting. There's only been a couple of clear-cut winners. Joe Lombardo. So Joe Lombardo beat Joey Gilbert. So he will face off against the current governor right now, who is Steve Sisolak. So we know that. As we said before, Adam Laxalt is going to be going up against Catherine Cortez Masto because Adam beat out Sam Brown. We do know this next person too, Jim Marchant. And the reason why I bring out Jim Marchant, and I'll tell you in just a second, Jim Marchant is running for Secretary of State. And the reason why I bring this up is because I got a phone call from a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. And her name is Lisa Badato. And Lisa Badato and I have been friends since first grade. First grade. I know. How many people do you know from first grade? It will call you up on the phone or text message you and go, hey, I saw you. And then I live here. So I've got a couple of friends that are like that I've known since first grade. And Lisa Badato is one of those. She calls me up and she goes, Sherm, I saw you on TV a couple of weeks ago. Or at the time it was current. And I said, well, what did you see me doing? She said, I saw you on a commercial for a political commercial. And I said, I don't think so. I've not been active politically and did not, I can't imagine how you saw me. A couple of weeks later, I see a Jim Marchant commercial and I'm on a Jim Marchant commercial. And the last person you see on his commercial, he and I are sitting talking. He was at my restaurant one day, and once again, I used to be very politically active. Jim Marchant, I know him politically that way. Okay, so it's not as though he just took stuff out of thin air. There was actually a reason why he was there at my shop at the time. And so many of you have probably seen me on a Jim Marchant commercial. I've never mentioned it till this day, but a lot of candidates use my picture because everybody thinks I'm important, I guess. Thank you. As long as my wife thinks I'm important, I thank you, everybody who thinks I'm important. I really do. I'm not that important. I'm a nice guy. I mean, a nice guy. I dress well. You know, even though I have stains on my shirts every once in a while, but and so thank you so much. If I had anything to do with Jim Marchant winning his primary election, I, 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 you're welcome. I don't think I did, but here's to you, Jim. And so Jim Marchant is now the primary election candidate for the Republican Party. And he'll go up against. Actually, it's an open seat. So Barbara Sagaski had to step down. She termed out, so he's going to be. Who else? So that's enough of election. There's a lot of people, and a lot of this stuff is rolling out now. Where you'll see Kevin McMahill, I think, won sheriff, so I think we can be pretty sure that he won sheriff. We'll put a link to the election results on our website, so you can actually check it out, because there's a lot of election to go. A lot of my friends who I supported and behind the scenes. Once again, I never tell anybody anymore in my private life who I'm voting for, that kind of stuff. I'm not politically active at this point, even though people have asked me, Sherm, would you run again for office? I don't know if I would, tell you the truth. It would probably take a pretty good push. And it's not as though I don't think I could do the job, but politics is a tough business. There's no doubt about it. And you've got to have a real thick skin to do that. So it seems like we've taken the entire show for this particular segment. But while we're talking politics, let's continue talking about politics. Okay, so Mayor Carolyn Goodman is in the news again. We love the mayor. We love her. And so what did she do? So this is actually, there's a couple of things she did, but the most important thing is she officiated over Frank Marino's wedding. So Frank Marino, many of you know Frank. So Frank Marino, the original drag king, queen, whatever you want to call him, he's been a part of the Vegas landscape for literally decades. He got married to his partner, Shannon Alex Schechter. Had a commitment ceremony at Las Vegas, or the little Vegas Chapel, and their new ceremony venue, the Imperial Chapel. Yeah, so we're very excited for him. So Frank has been a part of Las Vegas. He had Lacage show. What else did he have? I mean, he had a lot of shows. He really did. They don't really say how many shows he had, but I think he did. He generally does. Joan Rivers, and he's got a whole cavalcade of guys who dress up as women. And this was in the day when drag was just entertainment, as opposed to a lifestyle. Okay, in the old days, when Frank Marino first started out, it was an entertainment thing. Guys would come on show. They would do Tina Turner. They would do this. They would do that, and it was more entertainment. Okay, because guys were fulfilling a fantasy they had, and guess what? They looked good doing it. They really did. Frank Marino looked better, still looks better than Joan Rivers ever did. And, he's like 6 foot tall or whatever it is. But he dresses up really well, had his makeup on. Just a fantastic guy. But now things have changed a little bit. And it's become more than just entertainment on the strip. It's become a lifestyle for a lot of people. And we're not casting aspersion. We're not condemning anybody or making any kind of comment. Hopefully nobody's been offended by that. But it is what it is. Are we out of time? Oh no, I do have 5 minutes. Okay, cool, great. So there are a bunch of Mustangs. I don't know if any of you saw this story. And we have this all the time, folks, here in Las Vegas. where we have the wild Mustang roundup, and it happens pretty much every year where they go out and they round up all of these Mustangs, these wild horses that were or not indigenous to Las Vegas. That's the thing about it. They're not indigenous here to Nevada. They were brought here. Spaniards, believe, got them here many years ago. Mexicans brought them up, that kind of thing. Um, the problem with these wild Mustangs is that they are living in a desert. And many of them, as you can see by the pictures of here, you can see their ribs. They're living in a really hostile environment. And the Bureau of Land Management is trying to round these folks up, and they're having a real problem with this because there are accusations of abuse because they use helicopters. They do everything they can to get these wild Mustangs rounded up, and then they have to worry about them being in a pen. And when they're in this pen, people are having problems. They're saying, look, you're not giving them what they need. And so there's a big story about this. And so we're going to do there is an organization that says that the BLM is holding back information on what is going on with these wild Mustangs. And that's the problem, is that how transparent are they being? These poor animals, they can't get rid of them fast enough. They really can't. There's not enough people, not enough organizations that will adopt these animals. And they're like, there are tons of them. And there's tons of them out there, and it's a problem. So we'll keep an eye on this story to see where it leads to. Gosh, they said the Canyon city facility where 149 horses died of disease was cited for severe understaffing. So there's some issues. Similar problems were identified at the Wheatland facility, where more than 1,300 horses appear infected. Despite the violations, the BLM gave themselves a pretty good grade, score of 83% at both troubled facilities. So we'll keep an eye on this because this is a no bueno thing. There's no doubt about it, where you just don't want to see horses, animals, or anything like that we're trying to protect here in the state being mistreated. It's just not a cool thing at all. Excuse me. Anyways, excuse me, folks. Before I die here, coughing. I better get out of here. I hope you enjoyed the show today, folks. I really do. Once again, if you would like to check out Livin in Vegas magazine or Livin Weekly magazine, just go to our website at livininvegas.com and you can get to everything. Okay, you can get to all of the stuff that we want to go to. Just scroll down the page. You'll actually see the magazines. You'll actually see links to Vegas Livin expos. Everything is on that one page. It'll take you to every place where you need to go to check it out. If you would like to be an advertiser in Livin in Vegas magazine, definitely contact us. And I know a lot of people are watching the show because everywhere I go, they say, hey, Sherman, I've seen your podcast. I know your podcast. I've seen your podcast. So if you'd like to help us out, folks, you'd like to be a part of the show, like to be an advertiser, guest, writer, that kind of stuff, contact us at info@livininvegas.com. That's info@livininvegas.com. Or just leave us something below us here, and we'll get a hold of you, okay? Anyways, this has been Sherman Ray for the Livin in Vegas podcast. I want to thank you all for being a part of the show today, folks. We will see you again tomorrow, where we'll talk about the people, the places, the trends, the events that shape the city of Las Vegas. When you think of Livin in Vegas, think Livin Local, folks. It's been Sherman Ray. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.